He bangs out a form, one of his forms, and we all sat back and we were watching, and then we said, "But Pop, what form was that?" He goes, "What are you talking about? I didn't do anything." So he was daydreaming the form, and his body just started exploding. He had no idea he was moving. So I was like, "How many reps does it take to get to that level?" That was unbelievable.
The unconscious performance of form.
Yeah.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Whistlekick, Martial Arts Radio. And today's episode, I'm joined by Mike Williams. I don't know why it took us this long to do this, Mike, but I'm glad we finally get to. This is going to be a lot of fun. For those of you out there, whether you're new or you're back, please, whistlekickmartialartsradio.com for this and every episode. It's where you get the best experience. We've got the YouTube video there. We've got the audio-only version there. Whatever you want, you can find every episode. You can go back to the beginning. We're well over 1,000 episodes now, but maybe you want to go back to episode, 17 or 112. Maybe you have a lucky number and you want to see what episode that is. They're all there, show notes, transcripts, and all that. And if you want to find the full experience of everything we're doing as an organization, whistlekick.com for our event schedule, our products, training programs, the services we offer for martial arts schools, all that, you can check that out there. But without any more of an intro, Mike, hey, thanks for being here, man. Great to see you.
Sir. Thank you for having us on. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be on. We just like to share our arts and stuff. I'm do my best.
Yeah. Well, you can't do a bad job because this is just you being you. It's two martial artists chatting, right? The thing, you probably do that all the time. I don't know. I talk to non-martial artists about martial arts. I'm one of those guys. I don't know if you're one of those guys. Just, hey, let me tell you about martial arts. Let me tell you about all these things that I do. Are you like that?
Oh yeah. We actually have a museum here, so sometimes I'll get carried away and I'll let people know. Listen, if you have to go, I understand, but I'll talk for hours about all the stuff we have here. So definitely, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we're not that far away, right? Like I could probably drive to Salem in maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I'm not that far away.
Yes, sir. And you're Vermont, sir?
I'm in Maine right now.
Maine. Okay.
Yeah. Life took me to Maine. I'm on a little bit of a detour.
Okay.
A little bit of bouncing back and forth, but right now coming to you from Maine.
Okay.
But, New England is this interesting hotbed of martial arts, and I don't know why.
Yes, sir.
Right? You've traveled around the country enough, and
yes.
it's not a population thing. It's not just an East Coast thing, but there's this huge martial arts community in New England.
Yes, sir.
And it's been there as long as I've been around.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes, sir. Definitely. Yeah. Amazing. There's a lot of amazing guys in the area or people in the area that share in the art. So many great stuff. Yeah, we definitely are lucky to have that in this area to me. But again, like you said, around the other parts of the country, maybe some areas are, but then areas are very small pockets where you don't see so much. Yeah. So it's amazing.
Yeah, martial arts is certainly everywhere, but there's a density.
Yes.
That we have here. And I know bits of your story, and we're gonna go through as much of your story as you want to go through, but I don't know your origin. So how did you get started?
So my older brother Ron, great martial arts. He has an acupuncture place in Ipswich actually too, and he teaches out that way too. But myself and my brother, my younger brother Adam too. But my grandfather was a local boxing champion. We actually have a picture hanging up with the old glove they used to use. Cool. But he did wrestling and stuff like that when he was younger. And he actually, from what I understand, he was close to winning one of the heavyweight champions. He was a local champion boxer. Then my father did boxing, wrestling, and he did some karate and judo. And we started with him. Both of them when we were younger. And then we started doing like Kempo when we were like, I don't know, 3rd or 4th grade, and just kept on going since then. Yeah. So, but that was kind of like when we started in our family. Yes.
Was it something you wanted to get into because you saw him doing it, or was it something you did because he kind of pushed you to it?
I think we just kind of enjoyed it, and then we watching Bruce Lee movies and stuff like that over the years. We just get more into it, and it's just it's become such a huge part of our life. You're just so constantly. And like I said earlier too, we were talking about always talking to different martial artists. I was saying to some of the guys recently in one of the camps, it's just like you get a whole bunch of us in a room like that, it feels like the safest. You feel so at home and safe. It's not that you don't with other people, but we're all in the same kind of idea about, generally idea about how martial arts are. We just enjoy the company and have a good time.
It's that home feeling, right? That
Yes, yeah,
idea that
absolutely, yeah. It's like a home gathering, family gathering.
I wonder if you have this experience. If I go out to eat in a restaurant, I need to watch the door unless I'm in a group of martial artists, and then I just assume whoever's watching the door has it. And it's the one
Absolutely.
time I'm just like, okay, I don't need to sweat it because I know, that person or that person or that person or that person has it, and I can just,
Yeah,
let my
absolutely.
hair down, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Even like that, like you go to a restaurant, even like what occasionally we might have a occasional drink once in a great while. You're not very often at all, but you would never go out to bars. You always hear horror stories. You know what I mean? But when you're good with martial arts and you're just sharing a beer, it's so mellow. You know what I mean? It's like at one of those camps or something. It's just you're having such a good time. You're just laid back. You're not worried about anything. Ever happening. Yeah, which is nice. You feel so safe. Yeah.
When did that feeling start? Right? It sounds like you started really young,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. I
and
started
I can't
teaching.
imagine you were old enough to be able to appreciate that home feeling
Oh
early
yeah.
on. So when did, at what point were you so immersed that you were able to find that connection?
Oh yeah, yeah. Going way back, I first started teaching. I was involved with the guy in Angels Curtis Seawall in New York. Yeah, I was in the Boston area, but I worked out in New York and a few other places. And there was a guy that used to teach us in Dorchester, and he moved away, and I was training different martial arts, so they asked me to start doing it, and I've been teaching ever since. And that's probably like late '80s. I've been teaching ever since then. So, and then when I got involved with Professor Priestess and YJ and all those guys, I was hitting camps all the time. And ever since then, like even now to now, so that was probably like early '90s maybe. So, but that would always feel like that. So I'd be at these big events with Grandmaster Ray Priestess or YJ, different people like that, like Grandmaster YJ, and it felt so comfortable. I just had such a great time hanging out with everybody, meeting so many great martial artists from all over the place. But just
Yeah.
just amazing times like that. Just opportunities. I think when I was younger, maybe I appreciated them, but today I'm blown away. Like I should, you know what I mean? Should have been more aware of those amazing opportunities when they were there. I remember I always tell a story. At one time, I remember Mark Klein. He's out in New Jersey. He used to have a big camp at the airport. And one time I was training with Ren Priestess, Grandmaster Ren Priestess all the time, and Grandmaster YJ was they were in a hotel until like 3 a.m. and he was doing an interview for Black Belt magazine. I'm just like the young kid hanging out with him, and to just have to be with that. How so many events like that over the years, it just blows my mind that I was just like, wow.
Became normal, I imagine, at that point because you were surrounded by it so often.
Yes,
Why
sir.
why wouldn't but
Yes.
then yeah, you travel around, you meet more people and you tell these stories and you realize everybody does not have this experience in martial arts. And I feel a bit of that, because of what I do and what we do. I just oh, that's right. This is not a normal martial arts
Yeah.
experience. Not
Yeah.
everybody has
Oh
it.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah, yeah, and it just feels so honored, anytime we're at anything like that. And so even today, when we see each other at the camps, from Grandmaster Buzz Durek and the Master Terry Down, Superfoot,
Sure,
you know what I
sure.
mean? We're just so awesome. We just have such a good time. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Oh, for
enjoy
sure.
it. But even not only that too, but even when we're overseas, Indonesia, Philippines, even we went to Thailand. It's the same. When you're with martial arts, it's the same feeling. You know what I mean? It's that same family event. So we just love it. We have a blast everywhere we go. We just try to have fun and share what we can have. We can share with anybody.
You poked at something that I would like to talk about because it's something that most people don't ever get to do, which is traveling and training overseas and not just once, right? Like there are a number of people who, they have these dream trips, maybe they're Muay Thai practitioners and they go to Thailand for 2 weeks or a month and they train and they, that means a lot to them. Or maybe they're karate practitioner and they go to Okinawa or they go to Japan for judo or Brazil for BJJ or something like that. But my understanding is you've made quite a few trips
Yeah, yes, sir.
overseas for training, and so I imagine you get, kind of the real story. What is the martial arts, the typical martial arts experience of someone in Indonesia or the Philippines versus what we have here in the US?
Um, that's a good question. Yeah, thank you, sir. It's amazing. Again, it's the same family of you know what I mean, that same family environment, and you meet so many different groups over there too that are so much into these arts that we train in. But Yeah, we've been doing the trips. We met in '96, way back in two, and then Grandmaster Nene Torto and Grandmaster Leo guy. Hey, we're together on that trip. Grandmaster Romel Torto, we just actually saw him yesterday. We drove to Connecticut. He was over and teaching in Connecticut
cool.
too. And I haven't seen him. May saw him in Manila earlier this year when she was in the Philippines, but I haven't seen him since what he was like 14, 15 at that camp way back. So it was great to reunite with him. But we kind of do like when we bring people over there, we kind of do like a private hame with our teachers, but we meet so many other people, from over. Like when we're in Indonesia, there's a martial art college we stay at, so you see all kinds of different martial arts around us, doing different silat. We get
Like a true college, like it's
Yeah.
residential, and there are classes, and you can live there and train.
Yes, it's all for martial arts. Yes, we actually there's awesome.
I just
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. I just
Yeah.
want to go stay there forever. Like that sounds perfect.
Oh yeah, they have a stadium for sports silat. They have a big museum there. They have all kinds of areas to train. They have a big hotel like campus that you stay in. We always stay there when we go there. Guru Libby's one of the top grandmasters from the it's all for the Pinjak silat, but they have all kinds of different people from all over. It's amazing. But we stayed with Guru Libby and Didi and all those guys for the Harimau Baringin Sakti silat. So we've been with him since maybe '99, I think, something like that. Yeah, we met in '96, so that was, excuse me, I was going to say, we were trying to set up trips every year, but then we do it like every 2 years, but it's been constant. We usually always go Philippines, Indonesia. We've gone even up to 2 months. We're going to actually get a house over there. We're going to retire. We bought property. We built a house and everything.
Cool.
So, and we got a place for training. We got a whole setup for training over there.
What area of the Philippines?
Oh, in the central area, the island of Negros, Mesa Negros, Negros Occidental in the Visayan area. Yeah, Philippines, 7,000 islands. Mindanao the south, Visayan the central, and Luzon the north, and she's in the Visayan. Yeah. So in that area. So.
I know a little bit of the geography because we've had a number of folks from the Philippines contribute to the work that we do here at Whistlekick. Some really skilled artists.
Oh, okay, yeah, awesome. For example, yeah, she's in that area, and two on Grandmaster Nene Torto from Tali side, maybe an hour south, I think, maybe, right, or north, excuse me, and then Grandmaster Nene Priestess was in Higadan, which is about an hour, I think, south in that area. So they're all right in that area. And the Gubaton brothers are right in Mays Village too, Bago City.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Grandmaster Nene Priestess, Modnan is, two on Nene, the Kidi Tersus Ras, and the Gubaton brothers, we do the Caprato on this. Those are the ones we always try to do a lot with.
I want to go back because you mentioned something that I want to point out that my experience is that this is uncommon. The late '80s cross training.
Oh yes, sir.
That's what I heard. In the late '80s, you were cross training and connecting with all these people. I was around in the late '80s too. Everybody was not cross training like they're doing today.
Oh,
that was not common. So was it the school you ended up with that encouraged that, or did you have your own mindset on that? Like how did you end up being someone that did that?
Oh yes, sir. So well, a couple of things I come to realize too. I'll give you this little idea too, because sometimes I think a little bit differently now about it, and I appreciate everybody I train with. Even when I was doing the Guardian Angels, when I used to go to New York City and meet with the other Guardian Angels that were training, it actually was interesting. You ever see the movie The Last Dragon with Bruce Leroy?
Yeah.
So we were in a warehouse right next to that what do you call it, where that club was. And we were because we could hear the music playing all night long. We stayed in the warehouse with the Guardian Angels. So back then, when we go over there, some of the other trainers were, if you did training, they wanted to make sure that you did, so they checked you out pretty good on that. But I think in a sense, I know sometimes they talk about the cross training not being so much before, but I actually don't believe that. I think because I meet a lot of old masters that trained a lot of different stuff. So I don't think they mind you cross-training. I think one thing that they look at, which I feel sad now sometimes myself when I see this, is because you get one master took one style and he took his whole life to develop that. We want to appreciate the hard work. And that's why that Kung Fu means hard work. So when you see that, anybody I see now that has an amazing skill, it doesn't have to be martial arts. I feel sad, not in a bad way, but I realize like how hard it took me to get any kind of anything. You know what I mean? I still feel like such a beginner. And then I think about the struggle I went through, and I'm imagining the struggle they went through to get their skill. So when you see people online maybe complain about, oh, my teacher didn't show me this, and I had to go do this, and I had to go do that. This guy worked so hard all those years. And, it's like saying when you go up and you go on YouTube and you're saying your parents didn't show you all these things. It's like, why don't we just appreciate what the parents did your best for you? You know what I mean? And I think the old masters, I think that's why they feel sad. So I think they didn't mind you doing other stuff. They didn't mind you doing other arts as long as you did this with the quality. You could show something from their art, whether it's a form, a kata, or a judo, or something that gave you that quality. So, again, I look at it since, and it's not that I enjoy the arts and I love doing different ones, but sometimes now I hesitate a little bit because I realize how much work it is to maintain a certain quality in art, and I just don't want to do anybody's arts badly. I'm really concerned about that. You know what I mean? I want to do it the best that I
Yeah.
can.
And you do a number of arts.
Yes,
I
I
mean, you've
do.
already
Yes, I do.
mentioned,
Yeah.
close to half dozens.
Yeah,
So
what I did is I actually take a foundation from each one that kind of resonates through the art, and so people can get this solid thing that's very easy to do, and as they do the reps, they'll get a quality from it. But again, like I always say, like if you see like somebody in the Olympics, and they're going to win gold if they have the chance to compete for gold. They're usually just doing one particular area, maybe just swimming, maybe just running, maybe just powerlifting. But I haven't really seen anybody try to get gold in all of those. So in America, though, we want to do that with the martial arts, which we want to have an understanding in case we run into a situation. But we want to be maybe an athlete with one particular, in a foundation that will kind of flourish with the rest. That we have that, you know what I mean? We're not a power lifter that tries to keep up with the runners and can't and doesn't know why, but because he's doing the same thing they're doing, but he's not moving like they are. So
it's
I
a good
think, and
point.
that's what I think is too bad because the forms are such important exercises. And I know there's people out there, oh, we shouldn't do forms. There's no, but no. Forget about the application. Sure, I believe there's application in them, but the exercise that they want to create from the forms has a different effect to the body. So you start to become that part of the art. And I see it with the old teachers, and it just blows my mind. And then I realized they put on so many years. So this punk kid that grew up in Lynn is going to try to master all those arts in no way. So, but can I get a foundation that represents them well, and then students can get that and be able to go and learn with them? We show them how to play basketball so they can go play with the Celtics. They're not going to keep up with the Celtics, but at least they understand how to dribble the ball and you know what I mean, be able to get more stuff. Because you can't never finish the art either. Like the old masters say, you got the foundation, but they keep on creating with it. So they'll keep on coming up with more techniques, more ways of catching fish, I guess, which would be the techniques.
It's I really appreciate the way you're putting this because the more arts you train and the more foundations you have,
Mhm.
the faster you can add another one.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
Oh, it's like this, and you put it together. The first art that we train in is generally the one that is the most difficult for us, the one that takes the longest time to understand because martial art to me, martial arts is kind of like a language, and once you learn that first language, it's this, but it's like this, right? It's this, but you change it in this way, right? So
Yep.
you can kind of make those modifications a little faster and retain it. But this idea that maybe I'm cross training not for the long term pursuit of that art,
Yep.
but to have an understanding of it.
Yes.
Because sometimes there's a reason to have understanding of it. Maybe I learn basketball not because I'm going to go play with the Celtics, but because I might end up watching a basketball game, and it's a lot more fun if you understand how the game is played.
That's right. Yeah. And then when you
And that makes a lot of
And
sense.
then when you watch the game, if you did the work and you watch the game, you get those people out there that are the armchair warriors that will criticize the game, but they never played it. But when you actually play the game and you sit back and you're like, wow, those guys are amazing. Even if you think about it, even if you're the worst player on the Celtics, you still made the team. You're an unbeliever. You're way better than I could even imagine. You know what I mean? So, and I appreciate that. That's why I said like that sadness. You know how they work for that skill. So I can't say anything about. I just got to
Yeah.
appreciate that. That's amazing. Rather than I don't know about it and I sit back, you can't. You come on, you. You know what I mean? And I'm criticizing somebody I don't understand what they've gone through.
It's funny that you bring up that as an example because of course in the martial arts world we have these people who have watched 3 hours of UFC events and they think that they know what's going on. They think they have a full understanding, and so they watch somebody's video, somebody demonstrating a form or somebody point sparring or someone trying to figure out what nunchaku do and banging themselves in the back of the head and acting like they actually understand. But you mentioned it in the context of not just basketball, but the Celtics. And I don't know if you remember the name Brian Scalabrine. I don't know if you're a basketball fan,
Yeah.
but he was considered one of the, not as good players on the Celtics and was called out recently on TikTok by a street ball player. And so he went and played this street ball player who had been dominating everyone and absolutely destroyed
Oh
him. It wasn't even remotely close,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And so I love that you stepped into that metaphor. That's awesome.
yeah,
Because that's what would happen, right?
yeah,
These armchair warriors, keyboard warriors, Monday morning quarterbacks, whatever we want to call them. There's so much more nuance to what we
yeah.
do, and we don't just do it to learn to fight.
No, no, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I think that's what's sad too is that, again, I respect everybody's martial arts and what they do, but I feel a lot of the young guys that want that reality, they're going to get that reality. And the sad thing about that is I see them years later when their shoulders have been replaced, their hips have been replaced. They're in all kinds of aches and pains. And it doesn't mean that to the extreme. I say martial arts is always for health. We do the exercises of the art to protect us, stay healthy. And then if someone tries to hurt our health, we protect it. But if it's for anything beyond that, then you're putting your life in danger. You know what I mean? Which is too bad. They don't need to put so much devastation on their body. Could the situation, if we ever get into it, hopefully never do, we can go through life and then just enjoy it. But it will be a devastating experience. Not like, again, when you say, again, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but when people start talking about it's a swimmer train, the swimmer never get in the water. That's a sport. This is a different thing. This is like a car accident. This is like a plane accident. This is a seriously bad thing that we never want to be involved in. But our bodies are going to go through traumatic, and even not just our bodies, but our mind, everything. So we want to stay as healthy as I possible, because if we beat ourselves up so bad that we can't train the art anymore, then our defense is gone too. It's gone with it. So we can't say no,
That's
I
not
can still do it,
self-defense.
but I can't train it. It can't be both ways. So
Right. If you train in such a way that you get injured, that's not self-defense.
no, yeah,
That's
yeah.
self-injury.
Your self defense is now should be against you because you're the one doing the damage. Yep,
Exactly.
yep. So it's
Exactly.
scary.
And
Yeah.
and it- and I think a better comparison on the swimming, instead of it being dry land versus swimming, in the water, it's the pool versus the open ocean,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
right? They're both swimming,
Yes. That's right.
but one was to, I don't know, save your life because you fell overboard and it was unplanned and you don't have a life jacket and the boat is going down.
Hmm.
And the other is I'm swimming laps at the YMCA, and
Yeah.
it's for health and I enjoy it and it's my peacetime and everything, right? Like,
Yeah.
one can prepare you for the other,
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
just as with our training.
Yeah. We try to. Oh, am I still there? Can you hear me? Hear me?
You are.
Sorry. I'm right here. Okay. Okay. Good.
No,
It's gone. It's
that
on.
may have been me. I was
Okay.
um something interesting has happened with our recording at some point. I don't know why, but we've had other people trying to come in. I
Oh.
don't know
Okay.
why.
Oh. Wow.
And so I'm monitoring that and making sure that they stay.
Okay. All right. Thank you,
But
sir.
please continue.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, yeah. We try in Filipino martial arts that we like to call laro, which play. So when people learn the exercise and the drills and the different applications, we get a chance where they get very playful, and it's a whole different thing. So it's almost like rather than people are trying out to each other, sparring so hard, they're so playful where it feels like you're in this kind of crazy, weird combat thing, but you both walk away laughing like, wow, that was the coolest. You know what I mean? It's very fun, and I think it's. I don't know if the other one's going to get people closer, but at least you're not going to get your body all banged up and wrecked. You know what I mean? Which is, I think, is too bad. You know what I mean? It's sad.
You've been around plenty of amazing martial artists, so have I. And it's funny, interesting that you bring up that idea of being playful, because the as a rule, I would say the better the martial artist, the less seriously they take most of their training. Not all, right? There are times where it's very serious, but most of their training is done with that playful, joyful, relaxed
Yes,
sort of spirit.
yes,
Is that what
absolutely.
you see?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I love again like the groups that we're with. We're always so encouraging of each other. Nobody's what I mean trying to put anybody's down or anything like that. We're always very supportive and try to just be there for each other. So I absolutely very good spirit. What I notice is everybody always says to me now. We talk about someone we met and like, oh, this guy's an amazing martial artist. But the biggest thing everybody asks, is he a nice person? The number
Mm.
one thing over the skill of their art is how he is a person. Because that, not that obviously most of the people are very nice, and 90% of people are going to be great, very friendly people. But that seems like the most important thing. They want to make sure that he has the same heart as the rest of us, in a sense.
And there are people out there, I think one of the hardest things for me as whistlekick has grown, and I get to hang out with and train with all these wonderful people, is sometimes I bump into people who are very physically skilled and maybe even skilled instructors, and they're not good people.
Yes, sir.
And that's hard. That's
Yes.
hard to see that, especially because I've bumped into some that I didn't know. I knew them from afar and looked up to them
Oh,
and
yes,
got to
sir.
know them. I'm like, I don't like you.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you. Yes, sir. Yeah, and it's a turn off right away. Not naming it could be a great art you'd be interested in, but just kind of it helps you shy away a little bit. Not again like us, we're very mellow. We really, but we just kind of stay low key and just what I mean, just do what we're doing, just have fun with it, But I was gonna say too another thing we were talking about earlier about Bruce used to say that where he fear the kick person does one kick 500 times compared to someone does 500 kicks one time each. Like you were talking about earlier, when you learn one art, it's easier to get another art easier because you get to that level in a sense of what it took to master this, and you can weigh it in on the other one and realize the reps it takes. So you already have reps in to get that quality in a sense. You know what I mean? So you can kind of weigh in on how would it be to get that. And I always say too, like I feel like it's always such a beginner trying to train, but we should always look like that. And I guess the idea of mastery would be an organization that supports us that way. Even though we don't feel like that at all, we know that you have a lot of great people that feel that way about us. So that's what I mean, and that's very honorable. You know what I mean? We want to respect that, but then we want to take that idea of maybe what that level maybe is and gear it to other arts where we can develop. You know what I mean? Get that idea where it was, and then also I think the hardest thing too that people don't realize too is sometimes is we get people like I guess is a same way of the measuring this. If you get people that know a lot of martial art movie styles, which is great, we enjoy those too, but they don't know about the other martial arts that we know about, then their mind is in the movies, which is great. It's fun to enjoy that, but we have to get them the realization: no, you're not going to take on 20 guys and have them all. You know what I mean? Like. But I had people over the years that actually asked me, you're going to teach me to do that?" And I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't. So the grandmaster has to walk on water and has magic powers. No, they're an old timer that's been doing what we've been doing just a lot longer. You know what I mean? So they had the years in. So
We just hosted an event this past weekend, and some of the material that we got into was around this idea that a lot of times martial artists define success in a confrontation as I got through it quickly without any injury, everything went fine, I'm perfectly healthy. And the reality is that is statistically so unlikely,
yeah,
even if it's, sometimes we talk about that in the context of knives. Most people that have taught me knife stuff, the first thing that they say is if there's a knife involved, you're going to get cut. If a fight's involved, you're going to get hurt.
yeah,
The goal is to not get dead.
yes,
That's the goal. That's success.
yeah,
And then when you run it through the idea that if there's an altercation, you're not prepared for it, you're not warmed up for it, you're not dressed appropriately for it, the lighting isn't great,
yeah,
you didn't, you've it's been the right amount of time from when you last ate, right? No, it's probably going to be dark. You're probably going to have the wrong pants or the wrong shoes on. You probably just came from the restaurant and you had an extra piece of cake and now it's sitting heavy and you're a little sluggish and maybe you had a drink and
yeah, yeah, definitely, yes, sir.
the goal is to not die.
Yeah, and I try to do things now with people and show them how to train some of the techniques with the exercises on panicking, recognizing the panic, and then recovering as
Mm.
quick as possible, rather than being stuck in a panic. Like maybe trying to learn too many things and then try to make them so perfect. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you get crowded with panic, and then they all kind of go out the window. You're trying to figure out which one to use, so
Mm.
I try to get people to kind of respond off panic and respond from that. But I
How do
always
you
tell
work
people
on that?
too, there's no way you can ever win a street fight. No way, because again, if you're not ready for it, your life's in danger. But if you do defend yourself, and I know a friend of mine that went through this years ago. I talked to him about a while back at a couple of camps. Um, the cops can come there and say you defend yourself 100%, but you're going to go to court. You're going to go through all these hassles. And a friend of mine that did it years ago when he was younger, he's older now, but he said at that time it cost him $10,000 in court fees to find out he defended himself. So you can't win. It's a nightmare. You got to get out of there as quick as possible. And then if you have no choice, yeah, you don't want your life to be in danger, but you're going to go through the court system. You're going to go, it's going to be a nightmare. And how bad, I mean, obviously, none of us hopefully have to experience this, but how would it bad if someone's life, did get taken in a sense, in a situation where you had to defend yourself, and all right, you defend yourself, you had to do that. But if we find out that this didn't go the right way, then you're facing prison for the rest of your life. I say, wow, I just defended myself. He was going to kill me. You know what I mean? Like, what a nightmare. I would never want to go through any of that. Anybody I know. Yeah.
I have a friend who has confided in me, and I'm going to work really hard to make sure I don't share any details. But bottom line, there was a confrontation, and it was a long time ago, and this person still has nightmares.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Yep.
There's and that's why, right? Like redefining success, right? It's what does winning look like, right? You don't, to, to my mind, you never win a fight. You
No.
just don't
No.
lose the goal. You try not to lose.
Yes. Mm.
The only way you win is if you can get out of it, extract, walk away. Then both people can win. No, everybody wins. That's the goal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. And the biggest thing I think too is when people train martial arts, they think they're going to find an art that's going to solve these problems, but they're always going to come up with more situations. And even I know it's a cool thing I'll tell you too. I was talking to people recently about, but what do you call it? That panic, that nervousness that takes over. You know what I mean? All that stuff's going to happen. It's just an overwhelming experience. But the easiest basic way to train that, and I tell people this all the time, is public demos with your art. And the reason for that is you're working as a team. No, you're not even competing with each other. You're working as a team to put on a performance in front of the people that are watching you. And the worst that could happen is they all laugh at us and think we're terrible. And we're horrified. Yeah, I know people tell me, no, I can defend myself fine in the street, but I don't want to demo in front of public. But if they look at the sensation that the nervousness of both is the same. So your body's being, it's like going to the gym and doing one hand curls or two hand curls. Your body starts getting stimulated. So that nervous feeling of public demonstrations is horrifying, but it's the same feeling that you'll get in a situation on the street.
I said that about competition, right? But demos make a lot of sense because I think demos are even better in that way because when you go to a competition, there's context.
Yes.
So people know why you're there.
Yeah.
They know more or less what you're doing. But at a demo, those demos are often part of, a town festival.
Yes.
Or something that is not a martial arts thing. So it's that much more terrifying.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And then nobody's competing against each other. You're working as a team. So there's no threat any other way than the people that are there that don't. But even if we did a bad performance, they didn't like us, we still get a rep in feeling that sensation to get us ready for when it does happen.
It's
physically
closer. Safe. It doesn't feel necessarily socially safe. And that's where the anxiety comes up.
Yeah.
But you're right. The more you can practice that in that way, because there are so many people think, and I've done this, as I travel around and I work drills with people, and I've run drills that are scenario drills, and not even high intensity scenario drills, but just drills where there are some unknowns introduced. You don't know which person is going to attack you. You don't know which technique they're going to do. And I've seen multi-decade, multi-degree black belts completely freeze.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. If you can't handle that, you cannot handle a self-defense situation.
That's right. Yes. The same thing with the demos. So, if the demo's too much,
right.
The self-defense will be worse.
Yeah. How do you train that? You said that you work with people that you train that, through that panic. Oh, what do you do to help people get more comfortable?
Oh, so when I do those, like you're saying, like random drills where you get these random attacks so they can respond to it. So what I try to do now is like have them like they would panic, and then start to recognize the panic so they can recover. So make the technique part of that, and not having too many techniques. I know that I always say it's always hard because you learn so many great techniques and you get sentimentally attached to them, and they're all great techniques, but they become enemies together. So if you have 100 techniques and then you have to count 1 to 100 in the middle of a situation, it's overwhelming. You can't do it. So I try to look at the old geometrical patterns the masters left us, and the classic ones is the triangle. So all right, triangle, all right, 3 techniques. Doesn't mean it doesn't have to be 3, but 3 is a requirement to make sure they have some kind of technique built, and then let them have fun, build as many as they want on their own, but they have these 3 that they can and even that can be a lot to think through three, through the set. But I want them to almost like someone grabs them, they panic, and all of a sudden they recognize the panic. So they make that part of their response. So that way they're not panicking, trying to count through their head which technique to use, and they're panicking and they can't figure it out, and then it's too late. They panic, they get a little struggle, and then they do that one technique that, you know what I mean? That's it. And I noticed this with a lot of the teachers I work with over the years, that I show them some ideas that we came up with the technique, and like, no, you finish now. You don't have to add anything on. You just go right and finish. You know what I mean? So they're like, their spirit is to do the technique, and that's it. Whether it works or doesn't work, you're 100% committed to shutting it down. I guess that idea. So trying to make it so if their hands are panicking, they recognize it and recover rather than being stuck in it, and make drills so they can get that sensation, like randomness out of it in a sense. But it's even with demos and even in a situation, you're always constantly looking at what people might come up and says, that was amazing what you did. But in your mind, oh, I should have done this. I should have done this. Even demos, but even a real fight. But if you look at ways of training that sensation, the demos would be the easiest. Competition's a little bit harder because now someone's trying to compete with you. The other ones would be a real street fight or a plane accident or a car accident. And we don't want those. Those are taken off the list. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But I can appreciate, again, like, young guys that can be very athletic in the development, but I believe the wear and tear is just going to affect them. And it's too bad if they get to the point where they're suffering in life now because there's so much pain, or they had to have surgery for that. I have MS myself, and I think a lot of these things help my MS. One thing I'll say about this with it is, when you first learn something in the art and you're thinking and you had how to coordinate it in your mind to get it to happen. So when someone, from what my experience anyways, loses something because of something like MS or Alzheimer's or whatever, anything like that, that struggle to learn how to walk again or whatever it might be, is again, like I was saying, that same sensation of being a real fight in a demo, that same sensation. That's the same sensation we do when we struggle to do a stick drill again, or the first time we learn something. So now I'm constantly making up new drills all the time because I want to feel the struggle all the time. I want the struggle to happen now so it doesn't happen later. So I'm constantly putting my body through my mind through that all the time. You know what I mean? I love, like, Grandmaster Buzz Durek and Alan A. I teach at Alan Azoff School, Master Alan Azoff School in Lexington every Wednesday. But part of Buzz Durek and, all those guys, the Wei Chi, great guys. Wei Chi Khan's always awesome. We love those guys. But I love the first kata, San Chin, which in China is San Chin, the famous kata. They talk about three conflicts. And I always say it like this now because I love the way they talk about that. But mind, body, spirit has three conflicts. So now when I tell people to train is, look at them as three enemies. They don't want to get along. So you have to make them get along and hold them there and build endurance and then relax and let them go. So the body's active, the mind's really thinking about it, and you're trying your best because the spirit, you're trying to have a good spirit. And you hold it as long as you can. Then when it's too much, take a break and shake it out. and I think if we're not doing that with not just martial arts, but with all workouts, then we're not 100% committed and we maybe waste a lot of time that we don't need to waste. We'd get such a faster workout, doing it that way. But Pac de Trois, last time I was with him in Colorado, 89 years old, still amazing. Kundalini, he's one of the pioneers for it in the world. But he shows me, gives me all these little tips when I'm with him. It's amazing. He'll walk around, he'll do housework and do things around the house, and then stop and do a 5-minute exercise of martial qigong type stuff, and then do another work around the house, and then 5 minutes again, all throughout the day. And that's what he does to maintain himself at that age, and he still moves amazing. It's scary how amazing he is. But at 89 years old, this is his, not these long. And again, I tell people, if you can do like a 5-minute workout every week for the rest of your life or the next 10 years, will be better than 2-3 hours hardcore one day and all of a sudden you miss 2-3 months because you're so, you know what I mean? Those short little routines are so much more valuable, I think.
Building that habit, that routine.
Yes, sir.
And keeping things sharp. Yeah.
Become an athlete with the art.
Right. It's interesting to me that as I get to talk to more and more people who are, getting older, that seems to be the way that they're approaching their training. It seems to be fewer long, intense sessions and very frequent short sessions.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to do a form every couple hours, or, for me, I'm I'll do a few minutes of kicks.
Yes.
Just kind of, kicking around, checking my accuracy, doing a little bit of footwork and range stuff. And it's amazing how not just that can keep you where you are, but actually help you progress.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
You get
absolutely.
back out there for one of those longer, intense sessions and you realize, I'm not just as good as I was, but some of these things are better because I did these things so many times over a course of time.
Yes.
For my school, we send out, I call it homework. And it's not required or anything, but I send out 7 2-minute drills,
Oh,
one for every
awesome,
day.
awesome.
And if you do the math on that, that 2 minutes a day ends up being across a year as much training as most people do in 2 months,
Yes.
right? So if you compound that over the course of 3, 5, 10 years, it's a significant amount of training. And everybody has 2 minutes.
That's
You
right.
could all find two
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. And that's what I think is us as instructors and such. Maybe you know what I mean? Like I said, we're always still trying to master stuff, but we can maybe see the big picture of what needs to be trained where someone new maybe can't see that yet. So we're trying to show them how to do that. So I think I always say to this is like, because we've all gone through this, we have those lazy days, you don't want to do anything. So what martial arts would you get away with on that day? And make that the regular routine. Don't do the maximum routine because everybody does that. New Year's comes around, they get on that kick and they go to the gym. And then you see them a week, maybe a month later. Oh, I got to get back into it again. They're all
It's
burnt
bad.
out. So I
Yeah.
think look at the minimum you can get away with on a regular basis, and then when you have time to do extra stuff, you don't have to be to work. You feel great. I'm going to be 4 hours now. That's fine. Then do it then. But cater the routine based on how lazy you really are in a sense, and that way you'll never miss it. And you do 5 minutes a day for the rest of your life, and then you get those once a week, twice, whatever those spurs of doing 2-3 hours. You know what I mean? That you feel in the mood for, but it's not so much a chore where again I could be wrong about this, but I see sometimes some of the harder type training. Sometimes people have like maybe an angeriness come across them where they're and it's not that again. I think we all experience it. Like sometimes you get in a great routine, you train 2 hours every single day, and then something interferes, and it could be something that you want to be there for somebody. Maybe someone passed away, you're going to go to a wake or something like that, but you had to go to work
Sure.
or whatever it happened to be, and you want to be there for that person, but you had this great routine going, and then it's like, all right, I'll wait till next week. I'll just throw it away and wait till next week. I'll start training again next week, and you give up because it's just too much, and it makes you almost like feel a little bit anxious and angerness to it, where it shouldn't be that way. It should be like
Or
sleeping,
even
eating,
worse,
natural
somebody
training.
misses the hour and they say, I'm going to make it up next time. I'm now
Yes.
going to do 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
now it becomes even less likely for you to pull it off.
Yep.
And you're never going to make it up.
Yeah, that's right. It's too much. It's too much. So if you had that 5 minute routine where you didn't feel like doing it, you felt wiped out, or you had to be somewhere, 5 minutes is out of the way. You know what I mean? I didn't have time for everything, but I got this. I got my main thing out of the way that I needed to get to today, and then you're able to do more things. Because it should be, again, like sleeping, eating, just enjoyable. I remember one year we were doing the MS walk, and the police were crossing people, for the walk, and these people come by riding their bikes, and they probably do it every day, but they start yelling, "Get out of the way!" And it's like this anger to them. It's like their exercise should not cause that. It should be something that's healing, helpful, and that's what we try to do a lot with qigong and arts like that, the old Kundal styles that have that quality to them. That hopefully develop us in a good way. But again, I appreciate the athleticism that people do when they're younger, but I just think that they may pay the price later on with all that impact, I guess, on their body. So
And see that, I have friends who have, I'm not even going to say specifically what they have because, then people might guess who I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but I have friends that, they've been training a while and they went hard at it. And now I look at them and they're they're chronically injured
yes, yes,
from their training.
that's right.
And
Yeah,
to me, that's counterproductive.
yeah,
I'm trying to stay healthy.
yeah.
I'm trying to make sure that my practice keeps me healthy and keeps me ready to protect myself if I need to be, because even if I get attacked, that's a very small percentage of my time.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
I would like to have the rest of the time be good,
yeah. That's right.
not just get ready
Yeah.
for that one thing that might happen between now and when I die.
Yeah, and hopefully it will never happen. But we obviously realize it could. But at the same time, no matter what we do in our training, we still might not be ready. I mean, hopefully we will be, and hopefully it never happens. That would be the ideal. But there's still that possibility. So if we put on the stress of, right, I'm going to take on the world, and all of a sudden, no, the world's going to crush you if you try to. It's just too much, too much of a burden. So it makes it where the art's not enjoyable at that point. And I know some people use ideas. All right, well, so and so did it at this age, but that's not the best representative, because if you had, if you had, like, say, like Jack LaLanne, what an amazing athlete. But at his age, how many Jack LaLannes were there? If he was the only one, I'm not gonna swim in the deep end. He got there. What are the most people can do at that age? You see people doing the soft exercises. So all right, I'm gonna go with those guys and master that now. So when I get that age, I'll be okay. Hopefully, Yeah. So
Yeah, you don't want to build yourself to trying to be one of the outliers because you'll always be disappointed.
yes, yes, sir, yes, sir. And that's why a lot
Yeah.
of the teachers, like Bapak William the Twas, I couldn't see that teacher. He's 89. Grandmaster Jason Nene Torto is 87 now. I think he Terces Radis. Grandmaster Sabbath Gubaton, his late brother Abraham Gubaton, but Sabbath is 80 something right now. Yeah. And Grandmaster with Libby, I think, the Barang Sakti, Indonesia, he's in his 80s too. Yeah. So I hope I can still train at their age too. But Joseph Mencisa,
All four of
Grandmaster,
those guys are move. They still move well, don't they?
they unbelievable, amazing,
Yeah,
amazing. Yep, it blows my
yeah.
mind every time.
And I think that's why you know I people will tell me, oh well, you're that's inevitable because you're this certain age, and I reject that. I wholeheartedly reject that because here I am. I don't consider myself. I still consider myself pretty young. I'm going to be 46 shortly. I'm the strongest I've ever been
Yes, yes, sir.
by far.
Yes,
I'll go to the gym later today and I'll have a lifting session and it feels good and maybe I can't progress in everything
yes, sir.
in a way that I did when I was younger, but I can progress in the things that are most important.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
can make that time
Yep.
and I can keep the other things shored up by, 5 minutes a day or
Yeah.
2 minutes a day or whatever it is. Do the things that I know I need to do to maintain. And maybe I periodically want to shift focus. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe this art that I train is more important to me this year. And so I spend the time, more time on this one and the other one I spend less time on, and I just try to maintain it
Yes, sir.
because I can't do everything at once.
It's a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm interested in every art.
Yeah. Oh, I
I
am too.
can't
Yeah.
do that.
Blows my mind.
I know that
Yep.
about you, right? We have that in common.
Yep.
But there aren't enough hours in the day.
Yep.
Even if I didn't have to eat and sleep, and even if I had a perfect memory, and even if I didn't have social commitments and a business, I still wouldn't be able to train everything that I wanted to
Yeah. It's a lot.
because there's too much cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make me sad. That makes me excited. It
Yes.
means I have this amazing buffet of
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, I think that the sadness in a sense is trying to do the best you can. Like I always concerned about, I don't want to let my teachers down, so I just do my best. You know what I mean? That's all. That's the only thing I'm worried about, because I know they're all effective arts. But I do now, and again, not that, and I love that you go to gym, stuff like that. Not to pick on it out, it's great. But I was gonna say, I let these arts possess my body now. I don't want, you know what I mean? Not that I enjoy the other stuff, but what I looked at is I talk about this sometimes, is the solo exercise, like the forms, the content, and stuff like that, with the DNA. Because you think about, especially with COVID, just not a few years back, people had to train by themselves and clean the schools like the old days, right? So I believe, in a sense, they purposely did this so we'd have the DNA, because people, you always want to train with different people, have different equipment, but the solo stuff you can always do. It's always yours. You don't need any equipment. You don't need anything. And I believe they gave us gyms by giving us, I think every form by itself is a system. There's so much inside in every one of those.
I agree.
You know what I mean? So I
agree.
do those 100% for the workouts. I want to see what it does in my body. I let the old, from the old masters. I love it because it's from them too. You know what I mean? They appreciate it that we do that stuff. So, but I try to do, like, just constantly be like an athlete with those exercises all the time. Not that, again, I appreciate all the other exercises that are out there, because people should do something to stay healthy too. But I just want to see. So there's so much as it is too. I'm overwhelmed by all this exercise we get from these guys. Yeah. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
It, it's the if we look at the physical development aspects of martial arts, take the combative side out and the health benefits and the mental health benefits, like put all that together. I think that's always been there.
Yes, sir.
I think, and I think in our Western philosophy, I think we've become overly simplistic. Oh, it's a martial art, so it's just about fighting. And I know very few martial artists who've been training a long time who believe that. But it can be easy to see that think that from the outside. But if I was going to put together a program that did as much for people as I could to keep them safe and physically healthy and mentally healthy, and add it all together, it ends up being martial arts,
That it gives you
right? You
everything.
add it all together and you
Yes,
end up with that.
yes,
And I think that that more than any other reason is why we have that all over the world,
yeah.
because it's somewhat inevitable when you start putting these ingredients together in a bowl, you you get something very similar coming out.
Yeah, that's right. And especially like when these arts were put together, when they had those exercises, you might live in a small village. There's no gyms. There's nothing around you, and that's going to be your thing that you do. So I see, and I was thinking about this. I always say, how many reps of a form does it take to get to this level? So Bapak one year, as we were with him, he was doing a seminar, and it was after the seminar. We're just hanging out, and I'm talking to a couple other people, and he's just kind of chilling out by himself for a few minutes. Then he brings out a form, one of his forms, and we all sat back and we were watching, and then we said, "Bapak, what form was that?" He goes, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything." So he was daydreaming the form, and his body just started exploding. He had no idea he was moving. So I was like, "How many reps does it take to get to that level?" That was unbelievable, unbelievable.
The the unconscious performance of form.
Yes, yeah, he did so many reps where he did.
That's a new level.
Yeah, isn't it
I'm not
amazing?
there. I know that.
It was a weird daydreaming, and we just happened to be in the middle of it, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of neat.
So that blows my mind when we see stuff like that, different things like that teachers are able to do. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
fascinating stuff, and some of the stuff they've gone through. But that's what I did. A friend of mine said years ago, in sense, is like, obviously we want to get like the idea of Jeet Kune Do, how to cover different elements and that we could face in martial arts. But a lot of these things, a lot of those things were taught even before Bruce Lee did, like in Chinese, Ti Da Shui Na Fa, kick, punch, toe, lock application. You know what I mean? So, or method. So it's been taught going way, way back. So can we find, instead of finding another art to cover that, can we find it in the art that we have that would cover all that? So can you take something that everybody might say like Taekwondo, great martial arts, and everybody looks at the kicks, but they do so much more than that. So can you find the groundwork in that, or vice versa? Someone that maybe just does all groundwork and they find the stand up in what they do. But it's like a math problem. But I think it, you know what I mean. I think we just have to look at it that way. Not that we don't enjoy doing other stuff outside that, but can we find the essence of all the ranges or whatever, all things we're concerned about in one art, in a sense, be that
I
artistic.
think that kind of intellectual, academic, whatever you want to call it, approach to the art.
Yes,
I think there's when you reach a certain point, I think that's what you should be doing is
yes,
exploring
absolutely.
that. There was, I spent some time in Taekwondo, and there's this one particular movement and this one particular form that, you know, some of the folks out there know what I'm talking about. That, I said there's no way that what it's presented as is accurate because you would never do that. And it took me about a year, and I went, oh, it's a throw.
Yes, yes,
I'm
nice.
scooping the leg and I'm taking him down.
Yes,
Completely changed the way I approached the form.
yeah,
It made so much more sense now, and it clicked and it felt good
yes, yes,
as opposed to awkward and uncomfortable,
yes, sir, yes, sir, yes. I understand.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah.
I did Subak Do Tung Sido for a while too myself, man, in the Muda
Oh, cool.
Kwan. Yeah, yeah, awesome. All great
You
martial
you've
arts.
you've done a bit of everything,
Yeah.
haven't you? Come on, admit it.
I did when I was
You've
younger.
been
Yeah, but yeah, I loved it. Great. It's still that foundation still helps me with all the stuff that I do.
sure.
Yeah, when we do, like we'll cover in the Filipino martial arts, we'll try to cover the Dumog, the grappling element of it, the Puku Sipa, which is the Philippine kickboxing. So any art that we experienced before help enhance that area. So absolutely, yeah, we definitely, put all that together. And try to keep nice tight sets for everybody. Even like that element too, like when we do the Puku Sipa, the foundation sets, 3 footwork sets, 3 kicks, 3 punches. But then I tell them later on, have fun with more variations. We just use this as a platform to build and get an idea how to, be decent at moving around with some kicks and punches. You know what I mean? And then they
Sure.
can add on all day long, have fun with it. There's so much to it. But again, if they want to do something, like they maybe like the grappling tool, we show them a foundation from the Dumog. And we got a chance to do stuff way back with different. Like I was very close to Grandmaster Wally J, but we got a chance to. Go to some Gracie seminars way back before the first Ultimate Fight even came out. Hicks and Gracie used to
Wow,
go to Joe Murphy School in Waltham, Mass. We used to go down there. And then another
that's
friend
cool.
of mine went down to Virginia for another Gracie. So, and then like a couple years later, we see the first Ultimate Fight. Like, oh wow, but it's just amazing. Yeah, amazing to meet all those guys over the years. Yeah, yeah, awesome times. Yeah,
It's it's cool to see that stuff develop, and it's been neat to see how some arts have become, kind of more popular over certain cycles. And, right now it's a lot of the Filipino, the Indonesian, the Sila, Arnis, Eskrima, etc. And it's been cool to see that, especially for the folks who have been doing it for a while, and they're like, "Yeah, we've been telling you this for decades, right? Like,
Oh
this
yeah,
is great stuff." There's some validation in it,
yes, sir.
and then a lot of the stuff that I grew up with, people are like, "Oh, well, we could do that too."
Yeah, yes,
It
sir.
just it's all
Yeah, and
it's all the
they try to have a good platform to build from. So like when we our
yeah.
program we will do single stick, double stick knife, but then we'll go over to other weapons, and then the empty hand portion, puku sipa, which is the kickboxing, mano a mano, the close combat, and then dumog, the
Hmm.
grappling element, and then build off of that. So they have a good foundation of those areas of Filipino martial arts. And then obviously the Indonesian and the Chinese arts that will share from those. So the Chinese arts we do the Pinsan Wing Chun, and then we do Papak Kundao, Chuan Chu Shingi Kundao, those, and then the Silat, his Kendong, and the Baring Sakti from Guru Libby. So I try to cover those elements. So that way that we will use those as our platforms to build stuff from. Yeah, and then we can kind of hopefully work with everybody and get some different ideas, from those arts.
Mm,
Yeah. So yeah, you got a little
nice.
paper there, maybe give me strike.
So this is a question that I've been asking a lot lately because I've been thinking in this way lately. So let's say you and I connect again in the future, and let's pretend we did this again 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, some point in the future. And I said, "Hey, Mike, what's happened since we last talked?" And I know I'll see you around, so
Yes, sir.
don't think I'm gonna. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean I'm ignoring
yeah,
you until
I
then, but
understand.
just for purposes of this hypothetical, what would you hope you'd be telling me if I said, "What have you been working on?" What do you think you'd say?
I would say probably the biggest thing I'm trying to do now is make sure we have a, like I was saying with that foundation, make sure there's something that
Mm,
represents all the teachers that we train with. And I've seen people over the years do this where they work with one teacher and then kind of abandon that and go off to another one. But I want to keep something from each one of the teachers to represent. But again, be a very fundamental where we create a good foundation. So we're not, like say with like a good story about it in a sense is like the 12 strikes in Filipino martial arts. Very classic.
mhm.
Everybody has it. Everybody has a unique way of doing it. I've learned so many 12 strikes. I'm just like, it's great. It's all great, but we teach the first five that everybody uses to work off of anyways. So we just made that. And then if someone needs, if we work with a certain teacher, then we'll go over his 12 and we go to work with them. So people have that. But the regular platform, the five, that way we're not being, in a sense, redundant, but we build off of a foundation. Because I've seen people do this where they'll try to teach maybe all different styles of 12 and take the whole, like your class, you're doing 12 strikes and you didn't do anything else. You did a whole bunch of variations, and that can be overwhelming too. So, again, it doesn't matter which one. It could be just one, but then I think they're all very important for the individual system too of that teacher.
Mhm.
So it helps enhance it. But I think the five is kind of generic where it can go across the board. And then if the old master says, hey, you don't have my 12, well, I'm almost there. I'm halfway there. I got five, so, but at least they can blend in and be able to adapt to other Filipino groups that might do that.
It's almost like lately I've been thinking a lot about a lot of things in the way of kind of like cooking, right? And ingredients. And you've got ingredients in your pantry that you use every meal. And then you've got ingredients in your pantry that you bought to make that one dish
Yes.
and you've never used it again.
Okay.
Right. And so the five strikes, that's the first thing I'm thinking of, right?
Yes.
And for,
Yes.
for people who don't know, this is the corners and the sides and the poke, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's the five.
Yep.
And that's there in everything. I mean, it even starts to break out of Filipino martial arts into other martial arts. If you, it's not as common,
Yeah.
but it's there. I mean, there's only so many ways we can move the body.
Sure.
But this idea that you're building kind of that common foundation on which to lay those other foundations
Yeah. That's right.
is really interesting. It's got some wheels turning for me, and I like that.
And I know the 12
I like
strikes are
when wheels
important for
turn.
each individual system, and that I
Sure.
don't, definitely is very important. And I think the five is very generic, but I've seen people do this too, where they did original 12 from one particular teacher, and then they went off their own and changed it, which is fine. They come up with some great stuff, but then they keep on changing it because they did keep on coming up with a better idea, which is weird because they're great artists, so it's awesome to do. So and so I didn't want to go through that either. So I figure, right, let's just keep the basic five, make it very, you know what I mean? Because everybody's going to go through this no matter which system they go to, and it's very fundamental
Right.
they can build from. So it's not, it's a little easier to memorize than everybody's 12. And I've seen people too
Yeah.
where they learn the 12 and they think they don't realize this. Maybe I don't even know how many 12. There could be thousands, I guess.
Right.
So many
Right.
styles. So they don't realize there's more than just that. You know what I mean? So
But it's like we were talking about at the beginning. If you once you have a certain level of understanding of one art,
Yes,
you can take pieces of that into another art and it helps you learn that art.
that's right.
But this is another way of looking at it. If I get good at these five angles, then I can step into any Filipino martial arts system,
That's right.
maybe for the most part, maybe not all of them,
Yeah,
um, and not feel completely lost.
absolutely. Yes, yes. Yeah, you'll see certain things like that, and that's what we try to do in that foundation set that kind of go across the board, like the five strikes, the Sinawali's, things like that are very
Mm,
fundamental. I was looking at like Professor, he had the single Sinawali, double Sinawali, reverse Sinawali. Those three, everything else is a variation. So that's a foundation set that we try to push through. But you'll see variations of high, low, high, low, high, you know what I mean? Like tons of variations. But and that's why I tell everybody there still could be more variations I've never even seen, but there'll probably be something based on that area of the double, the reverse, or the single. You know what I mean? Something based
mm.
on that. I mean, maybe there isn't. Maybe there's something unique, but I think we're probably like up. I would say 89% everything pretty covered solid. From those series. So, when you get that program done with us, and so we make it very basic, so we don't people can make it. They can train. They don't have to think about it. And hopefully, it gets the boy to respond. Without thinking so much. Again, like I said, that they panic and they respond. They recognize the panic and then they respond to it, not get kind of overwhelmed or stuck in it. I guess in a sense through the exercises.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. I'm going to have you close us up in a minute, give us some final thoughts. But
Okay,
before I do, I'm going to have you do website, social media. If people want to reach out, how
okay.
do they find you and your school?
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, yep, thank you. So our website is combatkalisila.com. Yep, so I get my glasses so I can read some of these things. And we're in 53 Mason Street in Salem, Massachusetts. And face Yeah, phone number, 978 745 sorry. And the Facebook, May. Um, yes. Yeah, Martial Art Research Institute. And then we just, I'm sorry, I had a couple things I wanted to make sure we go over too.
No, no, don't
Sorry, sir.
apologize,
Thank you
please.
so much.
Please,
Um,
this is commercial time. You can plug anything you want.
all right, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We're doing this one in a couple weeks at Tim Hartman School in Buffalo. So that'd be pretty good. The Bobby Tavai is going to be all those guys, and it'll be a fun camp. Tim
Yeah.
Hartman. That's with
Yeah,
the
there's a
16th.
good tight Filipino martial arts community in New York bridging into New England, and I see you all, that group of you folks
Oh yeah,
all over the
yeah.
place all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we try to keep in touch with as much as everybody we can. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then we have a tribal leader program too, and we go through the list here, but we got Justin. Yep, Elmel. Elmo. Oh, sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Justin Elmo from Maine. Mike Corner from Arizona. Adam Fillmore from Florida. Mike Lushabout, New Hampshire. Eric Menard, New Hampshire. Who else may? Woodchuck, and Tom and Carol from Connecticut. And then also my brother Ron, who has a place in Ipswich, acupuncturist, longtime massage. John Savage, he met John. John's been trained since he's done so much for the school. We had a lot of stuff we wouldn't have if it wasn't for Johnny, his shirts and everything. And he's been trained since before I was born. Great martial artist. So just want a little shout out to them. And we said, oh yeah, and one of my teachers too, Tom Sotis. We go way back. Sifu Alex Laveau, Peter Freeman, Tim Gillette, all those guys. I just want to throw some shout outs quick. Tim Rosendo, the Pinsan Wing Chun Group. Wu Ching, White Crane Kung Fu, Northeast Kung Fu Federation, Chinatown. We're part of that too. So we'll have to bring you in sometime and have dinner in Chinatown with those guys. Great guys.
Yeah.
Good time in Chinatown. May and Walt Isaac, Terry Dow. This is a shout out to those guys. They always have us in their camps. And Grandmaster Buzz Dirk and
Good
Alan
guys.
Azoff and all those guys. I think who would I miss? Me? Anybody? This one. Trips. Okay, excuse me. Sorry. So May, Buffalo. July, we're gonna might be with Papad, Colorado. August, we're gonna be in Connecticut. In August, September, Buzz Durkin. Ramel Torto, I think, who's gonna be here in September. Connecticut in September too. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yep. And training trip in the Philippines, Indonesia, October. And then the FMA Invasion Filipino martial art thing will be here in November 16th, 15th, 16th. I think I got it. What is it? Collective. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Bill, collaborative. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I pronounced it wrong.
You know, feel free to send over that stuff.
Oh,
We'll get
okay.
it
You send that
pushed out
now.
on social media.
Okay, yeah. Make sure she sends it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
send us
Sorry
stuff,
about
send
that,
us
sir.
dates, and we'll make sure we share that because this will come out, but we want to be able to put stuff out as it happens. We always tell the guests that
Okay. Thank you,
if
sir.
you're doing cool stuff, we'll help you share it because people want to be aware of cool stuff, and that's one of the things we
Oh,
can
I
do.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna just remind the audience, if you want the show notes, we'll get a bunch of that stuff into the show notes at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. You probably see some of it in your in the show notes in whatever podcast app you're using or in the description on YouTube or Spotify. But there's stuff that they filter out when we do that. So make sure you go to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. It's also the place you can sign up for the newsletter. And we don't send you extra stuff. We just send you, here's an email, the episode's out, click the video, click the audio. It's right there for you. And, all those links. So if you love the show, make sure you sign up. But Mike, now it's your turn to close us out. How do we want to end this episode?
Oh, I just thank everybody, and I just I say like we said, you keep on doing the best you can, train safe, and smart, and take care of yourself. And again, I would say like especially like I was saying earlier about the old teachers, or any teacher you work with, appreciate everything they share because it's so hard work. Nobody's perfect, and I think all the events we go to, like me and May always say too, we're all nervous. We want to make sure we do a good job of represent the arts. So and I know everybody, we all make mistakes. We're trying to do the best we can. So just I guess appreciate all the arts, everything that's shared with us, and that's all anybody really wants. You know what I mean? To be able to share and be appreciated for what they shared, and the hard work they put into it. I think sometimes they say the West is always in a rush to get there. They want to be the first ones there, even if they don't know where they're going. So slow down, enjoy the journey, have a good time with it.